from NJ.com and the Heldridge Hotel. Welcome to the Rutgers Rant, your one-stop podcast for the Scarlet Knights. With your host, Steve Politi, and Rutgers insider Brian Fonseca. Let's start shopping.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Rant. It's been a minute. It's been a month. We haven't done this in forever. We got a lot to talk about. I mean, nothing too significant, but still, how you been? I miss you a little bit.
I've been great. I missed you a lot, actually. I was in Big Ten country for the last month, doing our yearly trek to Illinois with my girlfriend, see her parents, and her annual conference this year was in Bloomington, Indiana. So I got to spend some time around Assembly Hall, around a national championship winning football program, football stadium. The shine of the stadium was so much brighter after winning a national championship. It's amazing. And I'm back and I'm ready to talk to you. What have you been doing for the last month?
I've been doing journalism, pal. I don't know, not much. Youth sports, writing stories, getting ready for the World Cup. We'll talk about that because that's next thing we're going to do. We're getting this podcast out of the way before we become in New Jersey's finest soccer journalists. I've been watching the NBA playoffs. We'll talk about that right away. Been thinking about football. Been thinking about this year coming a little bit. We'll talk about that. I guess we should start with Dylan Harper. And I knew this was you knew this was going to happen. Like, this is not a surprise. Dylan Harper was going to be a great NBA player. He was going to go there and do great things. I didn't think it would happen this quickly, right? It's still so fresh what happened at Rutgers. And of course, now Rutgers becomes a story during the NBA Finals, one of these sideline things. And I'm gonna paint a picture for you because I think it's really funny. I'm at my daughter's soccer game, and there's nobody on earth more qualified to explain what happened, like how Rutgers didn't make the NCAA tournament, than you and I and everyone who listens to this show. Like, we are the people who understood what happened, right? And so I'm at my daughter's girls soccer game. A dad comes up to me and says, "Yeah, I'm watching the NBA playoffs. How did Rutgers not make the NCAA tournament?" And I'm like, "Dude, I have no idea." That's my new answer. I have no idea. I saw it happen. I have no clue. I don't know anymore. It's gone. Whatever happened, it's just escaped my mind. How is that possible? How did it happen? I don't understand how it happened. I saw it. I watched it. I wrote about it every game. No idea.
Well, it's funny you asked that because basically after every game that Dylan Harper has gone off in the Western Conference Finals, you've had one national guy, sometimes two, asking the same exact question. A couple of weeks ago, it was the Kentucky beat writer who was like, "How the hell did this happen?" Then it was the guy from The Athletic on the last game 7 or 6, I think it was 6. Worldwide Wob, who's a big name in NBA circles, he said he's going to spend the next 5 days figuring out what happened. And then there was an interesting reply there that we'll get to soon. But I've been answering, trying to self-promote a little bit. When people ask that question, I throw out the story that we tried to answer that very exact same question a year ago. And then I read it because I haven't read it in a while. And I was like, Jesus, how did they screw this up? Like,
you're reading your own journalism to come up with the answer to a question you tried to answer and you still can't answer. That's great. That's meta.
It's just, I think the answer is just so simple that it was a once in a lifetime opportunity that becomes that much more obvious with each passing game that Dylan Harper has 18 points and 4 assists and hits a big 3 in game 7 of the most competitive, most anticipated Western Conference Finals, a de facto NBA championship that I know our Knicks fans listeners don't want to hear, but that was essentially what it was. For him to hit that big 3 at the end of that game. And now the answer is that they just didn't take advantage of it. They didn't get enough money together to get a better team. They didn't maximize the options they did have in front of them. But I know I'm going off on a lot here, but I want to address 2 points that everyone brings up every single time in these circular arguments that I think are bogus. One, guys, Dylan Harper was sick. He had the flu, and his ankle was hurt. So how could they possibly win more than 15 games when that happens? Well, last I know, Dylan Harper's ankle and his lungs and his immune system was working perfectly when they got spanked at Kennesaw State in the first half and when they lost to Princeton. He was perfectly healthy when that happened. And he only missed 3 games, 4 games. It's not like he was gone for a month. And the other one, which irritated me a lot then, and I think I've been vindicated, is that, guys, you can't win with young players in college basketball these days. They're 25, 26-year-old men. Well, Dylan Harper at 20 years old is one of the 5 best players on the floor in a game that has Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Victor Wembanyama, and all these elite players, and he's busting their ass, right? So I don't want to hear those 2 things for the rest of the time. That I know for sure.
Yeah. No, I totally. Yeah. It is just amazing though. And it goes back, and I'm not sure how Rutgers should proceed in a lot of ways. Like I do think you just own it. Like, hey, he was here. He went to Rutgers. He picked Rutgers. I think you just got to pretend that the season that happened didn't happen. And I think that's what they're doing on social media. They're hyping up. He's one of ours. Like he's one of our guys. He's again, and just ignore all of the stuff. What's happening now though is the problem is that I think people in Dylan's camp are getting a little salty about it. Ron Harper Sr., his dad, answering the question, what happened? How did Rutgers not make the tournament? Ask the coach is what Ron put on Twitter. That's one of those like, whoops. His mom on TV after the game, they're hugging. What did you say to Dylan? And I told him, after that tough year last year, like that's her first sentiment after he wins the Western Conference title. Like you battled back from the adversity you experienced at Rutgers. Like this stuff is sort of that's the concern that I would have if I'm a Rutgers fan, is that now, the next step, because it becomes really bad if Dylan starts talking about it in a negative light. I think that's when this goes from something you can still celebrate and something you can still hold up as, hey, he went to Rutgers, to something that's just distance yourself from it.
Yeah, I think you have to find a delicate balance where you can't, this is a really good marketing opportunity to a certain extent, that you have a kid who played at your program who in his rookie year is playing a major role on a team that went to the NBA Finals and is playing games in the NBA Finals at MSG, right? A place where he played at Rutgers a year ago against Michigan State.
They're not playing Miami, right? They're playing across the Hudson River. Yeah.
Right.
It's great.
But you can't overdo it, because every time you do it, you were reminding people, we went 15-17 with this kid who is just one of the best players in the NBA right now at going downhill and getting to the rim. He's athletic. He plays hard on defense. Like he's literally everything you want in a player. And you guys had him, and you went 15-17 and didn't even sniff the NCAA tournament. So it's probably not something you want to keep reminding people. So I would probably try to find the minimal amount of, when he has a really good game, I think it's worth bringing up. When he has a decent game, I think you can sit on the sidelines. Here's the tweet, by the way, just to be clear of what Ron Harper said.
What is Ron doing, by the way? Is he just sitting there? Because he's not tagged in this. He's not. I mean, is he just sitting there, searching his son's name, Twitter, looking for people to punch in the face? I mean, maybe that's what he's doing. He's got enough money. He's got 5 rings. Okay.
He's got nothing else to do. Ron Harper is always ready to fight on Twitter. He's got his fingers ready at all hours. If you go through the replies, he has dozens of replies after every game. He did it at Rutgers. He did it during the regular season. Right. He doesn't care. He's a 5-time NBA champion. What are people going to say to him? Okay. Now, my takeaway from that tweet is, everyone is asking what happened for Rutgers to miss the NCAA tournament with Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey. I think Ron Harper is his answer.
Yeah. Which is interesting. Absolutely. Yeah. Ron Harper's not saying, look at the NIL situation, right? He's not saying, they did the best they could with the resources they had. No, he's saying, ask the coach. Which is fascinating. And we've talked about it a million times, it was always going to be this was going to be the legacy of this thing if it went the wrong direction. And here we are.
I don't know if we expected it to happen as soon as it did, and to the extent it has so far. But yes, this was always, barring Dylan and Ace being complete flops, which we knew they weren't going to be, this was always going to happen, which is what makes that season so bad. It wasn't just the immediate impact of how do they miss the tournament with these guys. It's that it's going to be a recurring bump every year. You're going to get hit with it every year. Every time they have a game, you can't even enjoy it because in the back of your mind, people that aren't at Rutgers, the outside national people, someone is going to bring up the question, how did this happen? Yeah. And I guess just to wrap up this point, how does this impact Steve Peichel, right? Like, you have the father of your best player of your time here blaming you for the biggest disappointment in program history. Not that Ron Harper is the only one. Not that Ron Harper's tweet is going to be the reason that Steve Michael's seat is suddenly hotter, but I do think it does, further the feeling that, like, he's lost his cachet, he's on thin ice, and it doesn't help that stuff like this is being talked about. Just the general Dylan Harper discussion.
Right. That's what I would say. Doesn't help. Like, I don't think it changes the scenario with where he is now. I think it certainly, this season is going to happen regardless of what happens with Dylan Harper. And now he's got resources. It's like the program has changed. That's all sort of in the past. I don't think anything that happened there is going to impact what happens future with Steve Michael, except how he's remembered at Rutgers and what his legacy as a coach is. I don't know that he worries about that one bit. It's probably not something people worry about when they're still actively doing it. But yeah, I mean, it's certainly this success Dylan's having is just putting a magnifying glass on that failure. And that's what it is. I mean, and it's just, we knew it going into it, the stakes of it. We knew it when it was happening, that just how it was going to be remembered. But again, it just comes back to it. Like, it is just the perfect Rutgers. Of course, they're in the finals in the first year. And of course, they're playing the Knicks, right? Like, it just couldn't, I mean, just the ultimate. We should have gone to Vegas on that, have seen that one coming, because it couldn't have been more obvious. Like, what's the worst possible scenario for Rutgers in the NBA this year? It's, Dylan Harper becomes, the third most valuable player on this team, and they play the Knicks. Here we are.
Correct. We'll look at the Steve Michael's future and the next team here in a bit, but just to finish off this Dylan Harper point, I want to reemphasize something I said in the immediate aftermath at the end of that season, when everyone was trying to point fingers and see who to blame. I felt very strongly about this. I feel even stronger. If you make a list of people to blame for that season going sideways, the last two people on that list are Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey.
Yeah,
right. I don't think there's any possible reason, unless you were reaching an Olympic reach, to put any blame on Dylan Harper's shoulders.
Right. And there were people at the time who were reaching into that and trying to blame him, and I'm not blaming him, but pointing out that, he wasn't giving maximum effort, or he wasn't engaged, or he didn't play defense. Like, there was a lot of that going on at the time. Like, and I remember I wrote it, like, they deserved better, and they did. Absolutely. Playing out of position, playing hurt, playing, coming in here in the first place when you could have gone some other place. Yeah. And yeah, that narrative now, that one is just blown to smithereens to people who sat there and thought that they were at all to blame for what happened.
Correct. Dylan Harper is not a superhuman being. He can't do everything. It helps. Listen, I'm not saying Steve Michael had to get Victor Wembanyama to play center for him with Dylan Harper. I don't think that's possible, obviously. You got to do better than Emmanuel Obole to give Dylan Harper a chance of doing anything with this team, because you see what happens when you put good players around him. Mm-hmm. He's going to take you very far. So anyway, now that we've beaten that dead horse enough, that people listening to this podcast have punched a hole through their TV screen, their laptop screen, thrown their phone across the floor, maybe spun their car around on the turnpike because they don't want to listen to us anymore. Now we could talk about something a little bit more soothing. We could talk about next year's team. You and I haven't spoken in a month, and there really hasn't been that much movement. They added 2 players in the month since we've been gone. They added Doran Buka, a Victor Wembanyama-esque player in the sense that he is massive as a human being. Not quite Victor Wembanyama as far as basketball skills, but no one else is. But he's going to be probably their backup center. And they've added Rashid Jones, a very high usage guard, wing, 6'6" player at Coastal Carolina, who will probably play a big role in their backcourt. I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on those 2 players, since we haven't talked about them yet.
This is the ultimate Rutgers transition of all time. Let's go from Dylan Harper to Doran Buka. It's great. My only thoughts on Doran Buka is I hope he lives on the second floor. People in the 80s who will know what that reference is. His name is Buka. I have to look at it, the big picture of the team, right? Like they got a backup center. I think let's clear this up first. You do not think they are done? They're still looking at players. What is your sense?
Correct. My understanding is there will be probably 2 more. I don't think 3, barring the Luis Duarte situation where he's still not eligible, and there's no real clarity on that right now. And I guess in theory, if he is ruled ineligible, they could add another player. If the NCAA drags its feet until September, I don't see how that's possible. Either way, I don't think that's going to make or break this upcoming season, whether he is or not. I think by the end of, by March, we're going to be like, we're not even going to think about Luis Duarte. I'm not saying he's going to beat Dennis Badelau, but in the similar situation of Dennis Badelau, where, it doesn't really matter if he's on the floor or not, it's not going to make an impact on the season. But I expect him to add 2 more players, and I expect both of them to be front court players, one more of a power forward, one more of a center. Now, I will say I don't anticipate, giving consideration of when they're adding them in the calendar, I don't anticipate them playing a major role next year. It'll probably be like the 3rd center and the 3rd or 4th power forward in the lineup or whatever, but I do anticipate them to still add a couple more bodies.
Right. Okay. My overall feeling on June 2nd, and this is something, please don't hold me to this. I have not gone through the other roster. We don't know who's on the other teams, breaking in the schedule. Optimism's not the right word, but like kind of a wait and see. Like if you went into this offseason with reasonable expectations of how Steve Pikiell was going to spend the money, and I get it, fans do not have reasonable expectations. Just go to our Discord a lot of the times to see that in live as it's happening. I don't know. I mean, I think there is at least potential that I can see the pieces of this team. That's the best way I'll put it. Like, I'm not saying they're going to win the Big Ten. I'm not saying they're going to make the NCAA tournament, but I'm not like, I'm not running through the streets going, oh my God, what are they doing? Like, I kind of see what they're doing. They've added some good pieces. They've added some players with potential. They didn't put all their eggs in one basket. That was their approach to it. Like, I think some people might argue that they should have gone the other way. I understand why they didn't go the other way. They decided that they were going to have more options, that they're going to take, it's better to cash a lot of lottery tickets, to have a lot of guys with who can score potential. I don't know. I mean, I'm not cautiously optimistic. I think that's what I would call it, that this team could be better than that's certainly better than last year.
Well, yes. I mean, if they're not significantly better than last year, which we're not more, them being significantly better than last year doesn't mean they're going to be a top half of the Big Ten team. It would just mean they're not one of the 3 or 4 worst teams in the Big Ten. If they're not significantly better than last year, they can, the entire program could basically pack up its bags and, head out and be replaced, because they have to be
a step into the middle. That is what's possible with this team. Do you disagree that this team can?
What I would say is that I think they have to be on the bubble at the absolute very least, bare minimum. That is,
I don't know. Yeah.
What the season has to be, right? Like, I think in an ideal world, you make the NCAA tournament. I'm not ready to say that they're in a position where they could make the NCAA tournament, but I think you have to be in contention, right? To, let's be honest, like, this is a prove it year for Steve Pikiell. I think to a certain extent, monetarily, the administration is going to want him to prove himself and justify another year. So I think they have to be in that conversation to
realistically in the conversation. I kind of agree with Danny Breslauer on this. Like, I think that they should be in. Like, I don't want to be. I understand. Like, they might, but we've expanded the tournament now. We're going to add a lot. We're going to add some bad, mediocre power conference teams. Like, it's just kind of like, it's not going to be enough to be, sort of in the conversation. Kind of on the bubble. Oh, we're just beating a couple teams in February now. I mean, they've got to really be in it. I mean, this has got to be. Yeah, I don't want to be sitting here and March pretending like, looking at the RPI and needing, bad teams in the Big 12 to lose, what I'm talking about? Like, I think this has got to be, they got to be really in contention.
In an ideal world, I agree with you, right? That should be the expectation. I'm just trying to look at it from a point of view of, you are the administration. This guy has a mammoth contract. If he didn't have a mammoth contract, it probably would make sense that it's tournament or bust this year. But I'm just trying to view it from the viewpoint of the administration, where I could see if they go 18-14 and they are one of the last 4 teams out, that is enough to justify, giving it one more run or whatever. Anyway, we'll get to those questions later on. But to answer your question on the roster, I think that my answer, to be brief, is that they are better than last year, without a question in my mind. They are deeper, they are more talented, they are better. That's not saying much considering what they were last year, but I think that clearly they're better. The question to me is how much better, and I won't know that until I watch them play, really, because I like some of the pieces. I'm not quite sure how they'll fit entirely just yet, right? A lot of guards, a lot of guys who in their previous stop, and to include Tariq Francis last year at Rutgers, had the ball in their hands a lot. How are they going to figure that out? They improved at center by getting a guy who can, has offensive touch, can score, can pass the ball. He's not a great rim protector, defensive player as far as above the rim. You have that in Doran Buka, who has a great block rate, but is not exactly a great offensive player. If you could somehow, have you ever watched Dragon Ball Z where they do the fusion and then they fuse two guys into one? If you could do that with Doran Buka and Christian Gurdak, you would have one hell of a center, right? But that's what Rutgers kind of is. They might have more money, but they still have to kind of piecemeal these things together, at a key position. My question's also on like shooting. They got a really good shooter in Darren Smith from Central Connecticut State. They have a couple of other guys who can maybe be decent shooters between Rashid Jones and JaMychal Davis, who's been getting better every year. But I'm not sure they have 2 or 3 lights out shooters who I would like. So the only thing that I know for a fact they'll be better in next year is free throws. They got a lot of really, really good free throw shooters.
And that's a great point. Yep.
That's
and they win games that way. You can win games on the free throw line, right? I mean, that's
yes, but you have to be in a position where you're in a close game up late for that to matter. I guess it does matter during the game. If you make your free throws, you keep scoring or whatever. But for it to matter at the end of the game, you have to be in the game at the end.
Right.
And the two things I just want to kind of point out that I'm not sure they improved from last year. They fixed from last year. Outside of Rashid Jones, I don't think they got bigger in the backcourt, which was our concern from last year. They had really small guards. They brought back Tariq Francis and JaMychal Davis, Lino Mark. Caden Powers is 6'4", I think, but I'm looking at the rotation. It doesn't seem like he'll be a guy who's going to play a ton next year unless he makes market improvement. And Rashid Jones, but he's more of a 3, more in like the Caleb McConnell role of like a tweener between a guard and a forward, if that makes sense. That's kind of how I view him size-wise, position-wise. So I'm not entirely convinced the size of the backcourt has gotten better, and that makes me question how much better they get on defense. And the other thing, the humongous elephant in the room, is that they might have improved the roster, but the coaching staff is the exact same.
Yeah.
And I guess the question is, do you trust this coaching staff to, even if the roster is better, to make that a better team? Like offensively is my concern, obviously, but just in general, based on what they've done the last 3 years, and obviously with the Dylan Harper season, like, do you trust them to make this team better?
Yeah. And obviously that's something I wrote, something we talked about, that it would not be enough for Steve Peichel to have money to fix the program. Nothing has changed in that. Yeah. And so that's going to be, for me, that's going to be something that it's a Kelly's in measuring stick. Like, okay, right. He knew it was at stake. He ran it back. Like I am thinking about that if I'm her, if the season goes in the other direction, certainly that's gotta be something that, that's a big factor. No question. All right. Give me your starting 5 on June 2nd. Francis.
This is very difficult. Yes. Tariq Francis has to start, though I do think he'd be better off the bench, but he does have to start. He was your best player last year. He's coming back. At center, I'm fairly confident Christian Gurdak is going to be the starter. He's the best player at that position, I would say, by a wide margin. I think Darren Smith should start because he's your best offensive option as a shooter. Again, this is tough because I don't know how they want to mix and match, what the matchups are. And I think there's a lot of different guys. Like, you can have a lot of different options. The 2 guard. So here's the thing. Tariq Francis starts, right? He probably has to be the 2 guard, and I would say that Lino Mark is probably the favorite for point guard. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I would. I think that's your starting backcourt. I think if you're going with experience, yeah, there's no question. Yeah,
I just think he's the closest thing to a true point guard you have, because they haven't added a guy that's a true point guard out of the portal, and he's the closest thing to a guy who can both get to the rim and, you would think, be able to distribute the ball at a high level. Whereas Tariq Francis is better of a guy on the ball, shooting, scoring. Not that he's a bad distributor, but that's not exactly his strength. And then 3, I think Rashid Jones. I really like him. I think he's one of their better additions. Now the question there is, like, if you start him and Darren Smith, do you have enough bulk? But if you start Rashid Jones, and for example, Will Sindor or Darren Buchanan at the 4.
I'd say Darren Buchanan would be the guy I'm surprised. Experience.
But then I'm not sure I'm not sure you have enough offensively there.
Yeah.
That's my question. I'm not quite. I guess my answer to your question is I'm not quite sure what their best five is at this very moment.
Yeah. It's fascinating. Yeah. That's why I asked. Interesting. I guess they've got 5 months to figure it out. So we'll check back on that. I don't know. That's why I asked you. Yeah, I mean, I think some combination of obviously, Francis, Mark. I mean, he's gonna lean on guys who have been here. I mean, I think Buchanan's gonna be in that mix. I don't know. I am fascinated. I think that's going to be really interesting to see someone who came here with the expectation that they would come into the portal and play is not going to play. Or someone who stayed, like a Caden Powers. Like, they can't play all these guys. There's going to be an odd man out. And that's something he's got to manage. It's going to be very interesting to watch.
Like you said, 5 months from now, we will likely see at least one practice in the summer session, and you get what you get out of those sessions. Obviously, there's only so much, but it'll be good to kind of get a feel for what these guys look like, how they play. Will Sindor didn't play a game of basketball last winter, so I don't really know, where he's at. You can only compare so much from his freshman tape. So that'll be good to have a better idea. But I don't think we'll know who their best five are until probably like December.
Yeah. Good point. All right, let's talk football because it is almost football season. We are less than 2 months away. Man, we got the entire World Cup before we have a football game. But it is coming up. It's 2 months till we get to see what is just a disappointing schedule for me. I'm sorry. And let's start with that before we get into the narrative that has been clearly crystallized as to what this football season is going to be for Rutgers. I hate these game times. I just hate it. I get it. I'm an old person now, I guess. But I mean, it reminds me of like the Big East, like when you're playing, Tulane on a Wednesday. It's just like UMass at 6 p.m. on Thursday, Boston College Friday at 7:30 p.m. Then there's a football time, USC 3:30. Okay, I would rather have it noon, but 3:30. At least it's a football time on Saturday. Then Howard Friday at 7, and then Indiana Saturday at 8. I just hate this schedule. Hate it.
Yes. And you could explain it, right? Like the UMass game is the Thursday before Labor Day. They do that every last 3 or 4 years. I get it. You want to get people in the stadium before they head off to the beach or whatever. Fine. Boston College, it's 9/11 on Friday. You want to make it the 9/11 game, the red bandana game. Understand, right? I would prefer the game be on Saturday, obviously, but I get why they're doing it that day. The Howard game, I mean, that should be a noon game on a Saturday. Like, there's no reason that game should be a Friday night game. Are people really tuning into the Big Ten Network to watch Rutgers Howard? Do the TV networks really have to ruin every college football experience to squeeze out every last dime? Can't people just have their noon game on Saturday? Because it's not like people are going to take their day off to tailgate Rutgers Howard on a Friday. I mean, maybe some people are, but I think most people aren't. So, and then the Indiana game, I guess for fans, it's great. 8 o'clock Saturday night against the defending national champions. You tailgate all day, get all, juiced up and all that good stuff. It sucks for us, obviously. I hate 8 p.m. games, needless to say. But it does put a little bit on Rutgers because if you get into a big hole early in that game, the second half, that stadium will have 5 people in it. So,
yeah.
There's that.
And I would be one of them.
Yeah, listen, I'm not a fan of the schedule either. I think fans have a slightly different perspective, but I would think that most fans would prefer a noon game on a Saturday than a Friday game at 7 p.m., especially when it's someone like Howard.
Right. All right. The other football talk, and every season there's a narrative that builds, right? And whether or not it lives to the narrative, like the heading into the season, it's what people are talking about who are only talking a little bit about Rutgers. Like, we're going to talk about everything. We've got an entire hour podcast and all the content. We are going to talk a million things: the offense, defense, new defensive coordinator, new quarterback, all this stuff. The rest of the world is going to talk about one thing, and if they talk about Rutgers at all, and it's pretty clearly it's going to be Greg Schiano's future. Like, that is what an Athlon preseason magazine. Where do you get a preseason magazine these days? Is there like a rack at CBS still?
Barnes & Noble still sells them. And there's this thing, Steve,
Really?
I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called the Internet. They have stores where you can order them directly from Athlon or Lindy's or Phil Steele.
We're going to order a magazine on the internet?
They, I don't know about Athlon or Lindy's, but Phil Steele sells it digital edition. So you can just, instead of having it delivered or whatever, you can just get the PDF.
Okay. I want to have it on the beach. I want to have like the physical copy when I'm sitting there in LBI this summer. All right. Anyway, this is what Athlon had to say, quoting an anonymous coach. And I get the sense school
an anonymous Big Ten assistant coach, just to be clear. It's not a people. I've seen some confusion about whether it's head coach. It's a Big Ten assistant coach.
There are a lot of those. I get the sense the school thinks they're actually going to make this investment and give Greg Schiano a chance to get it done because they have not done it yet. The people there know that he's basically been fighting that fight with a hand tied behind his back. Schiano's an excellent coach. He works incredibly hard. You know what's coming next. But at some point, it's a result business. So I would imagine that the rubber meets the road in the next year or so if they can't make a turn. But they were just not talented on defense last year. You turn on the tape and they didn't have anybody that could do anything. That's a program problem. If you're in the Big Ten and you're unable to recruit good players into your program, it's going to be tough. Wow. Okay. So a lot to go on there, but the bigger point being this sense, the rubber meets the road in the next year or so. Like this is kind of what the narrative Greg Schiano's going to head to the Big Ten media days. And if there are enough people still in the media with 18 programs to ask him questions, this is going to be the theme, I think. Like, is this the make or break year for him, for the program?
Yeah, I think it is a very interesting year because you now, in theory, have for the first time backing from the administration to help you out. And as that coach said, a fight he's been fighting basically by himself in the wilderness for the past few years. I think if you're Greg Schiano, one defense you could say is it's not one off season. It's not 4 months really that Kelly Zinn was there. That's going to get you the kind of infrastructure that's necessary to win at a Big Ten level. So that's another thing to consider. But I do think that the fact that they've gone 7-5, 7-5, 5-7, they haven't beaten a ranked team. They haven't, aside from that 23 year where they get through to the bowl game and they probably exceed expectations. 24 was a disappointment as far as what could have been with that schedule. And then 25, they, blew the chance with Penn State and they blew having one of their best offenses in decades because their defense was so horrendously bad. Right. So you're progressively sliding down. At some point, you got to go back up, or even if you are Greg Schiano, who is basically as close to a god as there is in Rutgers football, right? Like he's the most successful coach in program history. At some point, you got to show something, or else that. Now the question is, he has 4 years left on his contract. He still has a decent sized buyout. It's not quite the Steve Pikiell situation, but it's a similar boat, right? That's the thing that gives me pause. That unless they go 2-10, or they really fall off this year, I just don't see. I don't see him being particularly major danger. I do think there will be a lot more heat than there's been in the past, right? Like I think I've said on this podcast at least 30 times, right? Like Greg Schiano is going to decide when he's done, but I think that's progressively getting less true if they don't show some life here. But I also think from the alternative perspective, like I don't think if he goes, let's say he goes 7-5, like, I don't think that's going to earn him a new contract or anything. I don't think it's going to get him, further, support in that sense. I think he's going to kind of have the next 2 years with 4 years left on his deal. And he's got to show something, or else, as this guy said, the rubber meets the road at some point.
Yeah, no, totally. All that's true. Yeah. And it's just sort of like a fascinating narrative. Like, it's just I don't know what's good. What I just feel like what this mood is going to be around this program, around this team, if they're sitting there at 5-6 and 5-7, and getting to that point where it's going to be another year like that. I think it's going to be really interesting. And there's going to be a lot of talk about it. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be hot lists, there's going to be the hot seat lists. There's going to be all that stuff nationally. It's going to be a thing. Yeah. And I'm curious how he's going to address it on the front end, because Greg is very smart about how he handles this stuff. Like he heads these narratives off, before they get there. I am curious to see what he says when he's asked about these expectations, when he's asked about the money that's been poured into the program, if it should make a difference. It's a tricky question to answer, but it's going to be, I mean, he's going to have an opportunity to kind of set that tone.
He's not on any hot seat lists that I've seen. I've read through the magazines. I've gone through all the websites, and that's a very popular summer topic. Like, who's on the hot seat entering the season? He's not on any of them. Some of that, obviously, it's just because he coaches at Rutgers, right? Like, if he coached at Florida or whatever, like schools with national eyes on them, I think it's a little different. And I do think the other thing is that while it's one thing, the national perception, right? National guys see 7-5, 7-5, 5-7. Greg Schiano, Rutgers, right? To your point, they don't really dig deep into this stuff. The other thing is the perception in Piscataway, right? How do the power people who Greg Schiano has built great relationships with, who he has made himself become inextricably tied with Rutgers football for so many people, the people who fought so hard to bring him back, right? Like, what is the threshold for them? Because they ultimately will be the ones who cut the check if things were to go in that direction, right? Like, they have to essentially give their say that they want to go in that direction. So what is the threshold for them? How bad does it have to get for them to go from, because I think right now, Greg Schiano still has the majority of the support. I can't say 100% because I haven't talked to every single person with influence at Rutgers, right? But I think he has a majority of the support at Rutgers still. I think the question is, how bad do things have to get? How much further do they have to slide before the tide turns fully in that direction? And I think from where I'm sitting, my it's personal opinion, I think it's still a decent ways away from that.
I think I think there's some framing of that question that might be not quite it. Like, I understand what you're saying, how bad it's going to get. That's going to view Rutgers athletics in this present. I do think there's got to be some people in this who are going to view it like, all right, is this the guy to win here? Like, are we winning? Are we going to take that step? Are we heading in the right? Are we winning? Are we going to get there? Like, I just think about it, and it's on our next topic list here. The Wins In podcast, like Kelly Zinn and President Wynn. Like, what do they see when they look at this? Are they looking at, all right, look, we've got the business model, we've got the guy in place, we have what we need, and okay, we can handle another 5-7, but we're on the precipice. Or are they looking at it and going, we are fighting to get to 5-7, 6-6, and that's not what we want. Like, there's a different mindset that's got to take place, that got to take hold here at Rutgers, where it's no longer just like, okay, we're holding on for dear life, let's get to the Pinstripe Bowl. You know what I'm talking about? Like, it's really, I wonder if the thinking down there is going to change, and it's not going to be looking at it like, well, like, oh, hey, okay, good, we're right there. If we had just beaten Penn State, we would have been in Detroit. No, like there's got to be some looking at the future of this thing and thinking, all right, in 2 years we want to be in the playoff. Right? There's got to be someone who's thinking this, and I believe that truly. Like, if you are in the Big Ten, you can't be just thinking about survival and thinking about not sucking. You got to be thinking about, is this thing headed in that direction?
I would say you're 100% correct. That is the 30,000-foot view. That is the major challenge that President Tate and mostly Kelly Zinn have, is transforming the thinking, the perception, the ambitions that this athletic department and the people around them, to your point, the donors, the people in the community that have influence, have to think. I totally agree. And if they're able to do that, as hard as it is to get money into the program, to increase support, all the stuff they've done right now, that is 100% the hardest thing to do, is shifting that. And, it's what they did. I hate to keep comparing them to Indiana, but that's what they did at Indiana. They turned a perennial losing football program that was just happy to kind of be there. And now if they don't win a natty next year, they're going to be disappointed, which is insane to say. And I don't think that Kelly Zinn should be held to that standard, that's what she has to turn Rutgers athletic department into, because obviously that's a whole different level. But I agree with you that I don't think in an ideal world, Rutgers isn't at a point where making a bowl game, you're satisfied with the season. If you don't make a bowl game, it should be a disaster. It should be the inverse. Making the bowl game should be the expectation. And
yes,
getting to 8 wins, 9 wins, that should be the kind of point where you feel good about a season, if that makes sense.
All right, good transition into the Wins In podcast, which I like that. They should it's called the Scarlet Table. I think they should rebrand that. Let's get Chris Carlin on here. Wins In up next. I am amped, President Tate said. We have a business model. I can see it, and I didn't see it when I first got here, frankly. So yeah, I think they believe but what they've done behind the scenes has laid the groundwork for a successful men's basketball, women's basketball, football programs. And I really like that's the sense I get, that it's not false optimism. It's not, that the days of making excuses about resources at Rutgers for these programs is over. Was that your takeaway from that interview?
Yes, with the understanding that this is a rah-rah podcast, not to call it a propaganda podcast. It's an in-house, the entire point is to kind of, be excited about where they're doing on the field, what they're doing in the classroom, understanding that, yes, that's my sense. They are optimistic. They wouldn't really be pumping their chests out in the way they did in the podcast if they weren't. Again, my question is always, to President Tate's point, the NIL infrastructure, all that stuff was on the floor, right? It was barely, it was an inch off the floor, if that, right? They probably did bring it up a notable amount from where it was.
Question. No, probably. Yeah, they did. Yeah,
they did. Now, the question is, how does that measure against the rest of the Big Ten, right? Because you can go from 0 to 10, but if everyone in the Big Ten is at 100, you did make significant progress, but you still have a large gap to close. That, to me, is the big question. So I applaud them for, talking about it and doing what they've done. And I don't blame Rutgers fans if they listen to that podcast and get really excited. But the flip side of that coin is, like, you still have to look at the big picture. So I think they're rightfully excited, but I will temper my expectations after.
Totally. But I do think that I'm hoping, because we spent so much time on this podcast talking about this topic, I'm hoping now when we have a show in the season and they lose to USC, or they blow a game, that we're not like, oh, the resources, I really think that it's just, we need to judge them on wins and losses. Like they have what they need. It might not be what everyone else has. I just saw a stat, like, they're among the top 10 in spending again in football. Like there's a million numbers you can throw out. I'm just kind of, the athletic director, the president, there is a feeling at the university that they have set up the infrastructure. I get it. It's not all the way there yet, but
I will agree with you. In an ideal world, we don't bring up NIL or as a significant reason for anything this season. No doubt about it.
Okay. All right. Some soccer talk. And we've got to start with the World Cup right here in the backyard in Piscataway. And I've got a funny story about that, Brian. Should I tell my funny story about trying to get a guest on the podcast?
The answer is always yes.
You think so? I think it's good. All right. So I decided that it would be great to get a guest, because obviously Rutgers is hosting one of the World Cup teams in Piscataway at Rutgers, and it's a big deal. It shows the facilities are improving, rolling out the red carpet. So, I crafted an email. I was like, hey, look, we're the Rutgers Rant. We would love to have someone from your soccer federation on our show to talk about your experiences at Rutgers, talk about anything you want about New Jersey, about coming over here. It's a fun half an hour. We'll just chit chat about soccer, about your success in the world, like everything. And I sent it off. And the problem is that I sent it to Cameroon, and they're not the team at Rutgers. Senegal team at Rutgers.
You are the columnist for the biggest paper of the state hosting the World Cup final, and you can't tell the difference between Cameroon and Senegal.
I got the same general area of the world, right? Like they're in both Western Africa.
Yes. Your excuse is that you are reading up on soccer history and you're 15 years too early, because Cameroon used to be really good, and now Senegal has a Mickey Mouse AFCON title this January. So you're just catching up. That's all.
Right. What can you tell us about Senegal? And can you do it while you use the bathroom? Kidding. What can you tell us about Senegal? They are like one of the potential surprise teams, right? They're talented. The Lions of Larinaga? No, Larinaga coached Miami. What is the nickname? The Lions of something.
I couldn't tell you. I'm not that far into my research, but I do know they are staying at the Heldrich, the best hotel in downtown New Brunswick, where everyone should go. The best sponsor in the Rutgers sports universe. Thank you to the Heldrich for sponsoring us. They will be practicing at Rutgers using their field. I think they'll be using SHI Stadium because I saw a video on social media of them turning that into grass, I think. They'll be around
de la Teranga.
the river?
Teranga. Lions de la Teranga.
I think they speak French, not Spanish.
Okay.
I think Sadio Mane is still playing. This is how much research
he is. No, he played again. He scored 2 goals against. Even I saw that. Right, he scored 2 goals against US.
I don't watch friendlies.
In the tune-up. The friendly.
As a general rule, I don't watch friendly games. They're a waste of time, in my opinion.
Okay.
But Sadio Mane, who used to play for Liverpool, was one of the great players before he cashed out and went to Saudi Arabia for a few $100 million. I don't know much about their team. I do know they were involved in one of the most insane finals of all time against Morocco in the African Cup of Nations in January, where they won the title, but because they attempted to leave the field. So in extra time, Morocco is given a penalty, a controversial penalty. Senegal is so disgusted, they literally walk off the field. This is the last second of the game. They walk off the field. After a bunch of brouhaha, they're convinced to go back on the field. Morocco misses the penalty. They miss the penalty somehow. They go to penalty shootout. Senegal wins. So Senegal, after abandoning the field, wins the game. Then afterward, I can't quite remember if it was a court ruling or the African Football Federation. They void the championship to Senegal and give it to Morocco. They name Morocco the champions because Senegal walked off the field, and that invalidates their title. So now there's a whole big thing where Morocco is claiming itself to be the African champions. Moroccans are embarrassed by that naturally because they didn't actually win. Right. Senegal saying they're the champions. So it's a whole interesting situation there.
And the fact that Morocco is also here in New Jersey, but not playing Senegal, that kind of sucks. Can they come up with something better?
You can't really do. They try to avoid the same continents playing each other in the group.
It's like
stages.
Duke playing NC State, and I get it. Okay,
and that's the tournament exactly. It'd be kind of be a joy kill because they play each other all the time in qualification anyway. But you speak of Morocco, that's the first game at MetLife Stadium, June 13th, banger to start the World Cup.
Right.
I hope.
And everything. What could possibly go wrong? I mean, think every day, every single day, the trains are not. No, they're not running on time. They're on fire now. Every single day you wake up, NJ Transit, it's like, oh, are the trains on fire today? It's like, it's been one day since the trains have spontaneously burst into flames. It's bad. That's a bad sign. Delaney Hall in Newark, it's like the biggest, it's like we are like a week away from that becoming a Neil Young song. I mean, that's how bad things are in Newark. I guess we're going to have the World Cup here. I don't know. I'm a little worried.
I don't blame you. And just wait until Tuesday, the 16th. I'm looking up right now if there's a game at MetLife that day for the World Cup, because I think there is.
Yeah.
Okay, June 16th, France plays Senegal.
Mm-hmm.
That same night at 3:00. Mm-hmm. That same night at 8:30, Game 5 of the NBA Finals at MSG.
No, yes. I think Game 6 is the game. You're on the right track. It's Game 6 against another World Cup game. Norway Senegal, one of the games.
Game 6, then yes, it's Game 6.
Yeah. But still, I mean, the fact that people are going to be in the city to watch it, it's got to be wild.
They blocked traffic into New York, right? That was the whole thing. NJ Transit isn't going to let you take. It's only after the World Cup games or to the World Cup games. They block traffic into New York, so people are going to be trying to get to New York to watch the Knicks play, if they get to that point, the most important game in franchise history.
It'd be wild.
Or one of the most important games in franchise history. While France and Senegal are going, there's going to be people that don't speak great English. There are going to be people that speak English and who still have no idea what the hell is happening. Have you seen what MSG is like after the Knicks win a game in the playoffs? It's going to be an absolute mayhem.
Under normal circumstances, someone's gonna turn over a car and set it on fire, and we're not gonna know why. It's like, oh, what is that? A Senegalese fan who's just at the Knicks? Why are they burning this car? We're not gonna know why. Are they upset? Is it an ICE protest? Any idea? Why are they burning things? It could be 6 reasons why the city's on fire. We'll have no clue. It's gonna be great. I can't wait.
Did you see what happened in Paris after PSG won the Champions League on Saturday?
I did. Yes, I did.
Right. So it could be as simple as France winning a game, and the French are so excited they start burning cars in New York.
So great. All right, let's end on a soccer note. I have one more thing I want to talk about, and it happened a couple of weeks ago or a week ago. But I mean, out of nowhere, I'm on Twitter, and I see you pop up. And usually, when something pops up with you, it's a Rutgers related thing I should read, and it's you replying to your favorite soccer team, Sporting, who I don't know. Again, I have no idea what happened. Something bad happened, and your tweet is just so angry. I've never seen this. I'm going to read. I can't even read it because it's so like you sent this to somebody in the universe. And here it is. What a bleeping disgrace. A guy is left speechless. Borges is his name, has to hit the streets. Illiterate, shitter, coward, useless clown, and above all, a bleeping idiot. Coach of a small-time team that doesn't deserve to represent Sporting. Wake up, verandas. This can't go on any longer. I wish I had like an actor to read your angry. What did this poor man do? This Borges? What did he do?
Rui Borges. He is the manager of Sporting, and he
if after this tweet he's still the manager of Borges.
Well, believe it or not, they gave him a contract extension the week before. He completely and predictably shit the bed, becoming the first. Sporting became the first team to lose a final of the Portuguese Cup against a second division team. This team was in the second division. Sporting's budget is like 200 times bigger. Torreense. They're third place. So the team near my dad's village, Viseu, Académico de Viseu, they finished in second place in the Portuguese division, in the second division. So they finished ahead of this team. And yet, Sporting could not beat this team. They were playing the final of the Portuguese Cup. They could not care less. It was like a walk in the park. They thought they were so much better than this team. They could just kind of dilly-dally. And this idiot of a manager who...
Isn't soccer, though? Doesn't this shit happen? I mean... Every game's 1-0, and something's going to bounce off of someone's, kneecap and go in, and you lose. I mean, really?
Is
he really illiterate?
Well, analfabeto in Portuguese is more like a. It was another way to call someone dumb. I didn't like the translation because shitter is not a great translation for cagão. Cagão is one who shits himself. I'm not sure shitter is the direct way to say that. But I say that because he finds these ways to lose games that defy logic. He can't beat any team that's good.
So the translation, it's a translation problem. This is on Elon Musk. This is not on you. In Portuguese, this rant makes perfect sense. I see that this.
It was very eloquent in Portuguese, if you ask me. Mm. And a couple of people sent this to me, and I think I actually took it easy. I had other thoughts I wanted to say that I thankfully was cut off by the character limit. But the thing is, I didn't even watch the game. I was driving back home, listening to it on the radio, and just living and dying. Well, because usually they play this is the third straight year Sporting is in the cup final, and the third straight year I'm in Illinois when it happens.
Is your girlfriend in the car when you're listening to Sporting on the radio?
Yes, and she's not happy about it, but it is what I'm driving, so I get the aux. This is the third straight year. Usually I stay and watch the game, and then we drive home. But I thought, this game is in the bag. There's no way Sporting is going to lose to a second division team. I could just listen to it on the radio. They suffer a goal 5 minutes in, and then they're dilly-dallying for an hour. They tie the game. They go to extra time. They give up a penalty in extra time, and I was furious. So we stopped at the gas station to get gas and use the bathroom or whatever. And I fired off the tweet while I was sitting down. And I keep getting texts from people as I'm driving, and the car plays like, this person said this person said that. And she started to think she's like, what did you say? What did you post on Twitter that everyone's sending this to you? And I was like, you don't understand. You just don't get it. So.
She's gonna have to understand. And I apologize in advance, Rebecca. That's tough life you signed up for. All right. Let's end on that note. I was going to take some questions. We don't have any good questions. We've already talked an hour. Nothing's going on. Dylan Harper in the NBA Finals. I don't know when we'll be back. We'll be covering some soccer. I'm not sure when our next show is going to be. Might not be for a little while, but if something happens, we'll be here to talk about it. Signing off. Got anything? What last thoughts?
Rowing finished 11th at NCAAs. Women's lax made the NCAA tournament and won a game. Made it to the second round before losing. So 2 good postseason results there. I want to thank the Heldrich again for sponsoring the podcast. Always a pleasure to have them represent us. And I had one last thought, but I lost it. So we'll end there. Thank you all for listening and bearing with us. Sorry that we bored you with our soccer talk, but it's the World Cup and everyone's got World Cup fever. Let me, in the comments of this video, everyone, if you made it this far, tell us who you have winning the World Cup, and please explain why you think Portugal will win the World Cup, because I know that's who you are all going to pick. In the meantime, talk to you all later. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Rutgers Rant, sponsored by the Heldrich Hotel. Head to nj.com/Rutgers for more Scarlet Knight content.
I'm not sporting. That guy's illiterate.